recording. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us for our outdoor safety and health webinar. And then this is the presenters and the contributors to this presentation. And we are the presenters. My name is Gabriella Pandafelli, and I've just completed my first year as a master's in public health student, concentrating in health policy and management, and I'm the program coordinator for the Healthy Libraries Project. Philip is also joining us. He's a senior in the School of Nursing at Stony Brook, and he's working towards becoming a nurse. He's certified as a health education specialist, a CPR instructor, a firefighter, and a critical care EMT. And we also have Gwyneth, who's a junior studying health science at Stony Brook University with interest in epidemiology. She's a research writer for the Scientific Review on campus and is a health equity intern, currently organizing COVID-19 response strategies for the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And they're both interns at Stony Brook Health. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Healthy Libraries program. We're a partnership with the Public Libraries of Suffolk County, the Suffolk Cooperative Library System Outreach Services Department, and we're also supported in part by the American Heart Association of Long Island. So we're an interdisciplinary team of public health, nursing, and social work students whose aim is to provide evidence-based health information, screening, and case management to a diverse community of patrons in the public library setting. We refer patrons to promote access to appropriate health and social services programs locally that will address their health and social support needs. And we want students to experience an interprofessional team and demonstrate the core competencies based on the Interprofessional Education Collaborative. So we have some learning objectives for this session, and we hope that by the end of the webinar, participants will be able to identify a safe place to go during a lightning storm, identify how to run, walk, and jog safely, identify how to keep children safe around water, identify the 3 components of broad spectrum sun protection, identify 3 common poisonous plants and prevention/treatment options, identify 3 EPA registered insect repellents, identify how to remove a tick properly, identify the proper way to ride a bicycle, identify ways to minimize pollen allergies, and identify symptoms of heat-related illness. So this is the outline for our outdoor safety webinar. You can see the different topics we cover as well as the slide numbers. So if you want to refer to only a section of the webinar, you can click forward to those slides. And so now we're going to launch a quick poll. Please complete this poll. The poll is basically just to evaluate how effective the webinar. It should take less than 2 minutes to complete. All right, and now I'm going to pass it along to Philip to talk about how to be safe when you're outside.
Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing well at this time. We'll be talking about being outside during COVID-19. We know right now it's getting very nice outside, the weather's changing, everyone wants to get out of their house after being inside for so long. So we'll talk about, is it safe to be outside? So in general, the closer and longer you interact with others, the greater risk of COVID-19 spreading. While being outdoors and in other well-ventilated spaces decreases your risk of getting COVID-19, precautions should still be taken. How to be safe outside? Well, practicing everyday preventions if you decide to engage in public activities. So these include frequent hand washing, making sure that we're wearing a face covering, avoiding close distances under 6 feet to those you don't live with. We want to try and keep these items on hand when you're venturing out. A face covering, tissues, a hand sanitizer with at least 60 to 70% alcohol. And while venturing out, you should understand your local mandates and consider your own personal situations and the risks for you, your family, and your community. But why being outside is good for your health. There are many health benefits to being outside. Spending time outside can improve your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Being outside can lower your heart rate, decrease stress and anxiety levels, and help improve your mood. Outdoor fitness activities are fun ways to enjoy nice weather and share time with family and friends. Long periods of sun exposure can lead to painful sunburns. Not using insect repellent can lead to bug bites and potential diseases. A lot of walking, running, or other physical activity with friction can cause chafing and blisters. And oils from some plants can lead to rash and irritations. And long periods of time in the sun can cause heat exhaustion and other heat-related illnesses. So how to prepare for outdoor physical activities. Before any outside physical activities or exertion, we want to make sure that we stretch and drink plenty of water. Try and do outdoor activities in groups. Follow the rules of the road. Wear a helmet. Wear a life jacket for water activities. And make sure you include sun protection. It's a quote here from John Moore, who's actually known as the father of the national park system. In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks. So we'll talk about outdoor weather safety. So with lightning, right, do's and don'ts. When lightning does strike, we want to make sure that we go inside when you hear thunder or see lightning. Find a sturdy house, building, a car with a hardtop roof. We want to make sure that we stay indoors for at least 30 minutes after you last hear thunder. Some good shelter options include vehicle with windows rolled up, making sure we don't touch anything that has external contact, and some large permanent wood or stone structures. And then some things that we don't want to do when lightning does strike. We don't retreat to dugouts, sheds, pavilions, picnic shelters, or other small structures or other structures that are open to the other outside environments. Make sure you don't use or touch electronics, outlets, or cordless phones. And do not go under or near tall trees, swim, or be beneath water, near metal objects or windows. Making sure that we avoid certain shelters, such as constructions of plastic or fiberglass, right? Picnic shelters, bus stops. We want to make sure that we avoid carrying umbrellas, tennis rackets, or golf clubs. Get low in a low spot if you are in an open field, if you find yourself in that scenario. And get at least 100 yards from shore if you can. And some safety tips for walking on the roads. Walking on the roads may seem a simple task, but it's important that with many of us working from home, more people are going out for walks around their neighborhood. To avoid getting injured, make sure that we walk on the side. If there is no sidewalk, make sure you walk facing traffic. Obey all traffic signs and signals. Avoid alcohol and drug impairment. Watch for cars entering or exiting driveways or backing up in parking lots. Children younger than 10 should cross the street with an adult. Here's a great graphic, right? Pedestrian safety tips. So making sure that we unplug. We do not want to be distracted while we're walking. Make eye contact with anyone who is crossing the road as well, or any cars that are coming the same way that you're trying to cross the street. Especially at night, we want to make sure that we're bright. Wear bright reflective clothing. Never jaywalk. We want to make sure we use crosswalks at all intersections. Making sure that we stay alert. Stay alert all the way across the intersection. And watching for turning vehicles. Some vehicles turn out of nowhere or come around sharp corners, so we want to make sure that we're paying attention and watching out for those instances. Some safety tips for running and jogging. Kind of goes along the same way with walking and crossing the road, but we want to make sure that we're running, go with a partner. Everything's better with a buddy, making sure that each other are safe. When we are running with traffic, we want to make sure that we run against traffic and obey all traffic signs and signals. Making sure that we warm up before we start to run or jog. Prepare ourselves physically, right? We want to stop right away if you notice muscle pain. Make sure that we seek medical attention if these muscle pains continue to provoke and do not relieve. Choose shoes that absorb shock and provide good support. Always carry a cell phone or a way to get in contact with people in case of an emergency. And we want to avoid cotton socks. Cotton actually absorbs all the moisture and does not allow you to cool down again. So some good materials instead of cotton include some synthetic materials such as nylon or polyester. Some safety tips for hiking. Making sure, again, we have a partner, especially hiking in the wilderness or along trails, making sure that we have someone with us who can help us guide the way or be with us just in case of emergency. Making sure that you warm up before you start. Pace yourself and take frequent rests if you need. You want to plan the trip ahead of time, making sure that you know where you're going, you know the trip route, and then you have a accurate equipment with you, making sure that we wear weatherproof boots, some waterproof or water-resistant shoes, making sure that we are comfortable and avoiding any hazards along the way. Avoid days with extreme weather or temperatures. These can really interact and interfere with our hikes and our walks, making sure that we stay hydrated and pack snacks, and that we stay along the trail guides. It's important that we are going out for a hike or a longer journey, right? We want to make sure that we tell someone where we are going and when we might be back. Create a plan for our trip, including our destination, the route we'll be taking, which trail we'll be taking, which trail markers we'll be looking for, and when we're expected to return. And tell someone about your plans. If you're not back in time, they can then try and contact you or reach out and try and help you if you are in distress. And try and be as detailed as possible when you're planning a trip. Don't just say you're going through a hike in the wilderness, right? Be specific about your trail, where you're going, what time you're going, and who you might be going with. And we want to make sure that we wear proper footwear and clothing. We want to make sure that we invest in a good pair of hiking shoes or hiking boots or something that allows us to have good action while hiking. Running shoes are meant for running on pavement and smooth pavement and not longer hikes or rough terrain. And making sure that we wear proper clothing, which is appropriate for the certain weather or conditions that we might encounter along the trail. Another important thing to remember is that we should not expect cell phone reception along these trails, right? In many trails, we will lose cell phone reception, and it's difficult for us, but we should not rely solely on technology or GPS or our phones when replacing regular maps. When you are going for a trail in a county park or a state park, you can stop at the reception desk and they should have disposable maps for you to take, and which will allow you to see the trail maps and the trail markings throughout the way. And making sure that you bring a flashlight. You may feel that you're going out throughout the day, but weather can change quickly and the weather can change and become dark again, or you might be in a more darker area of the woods. Making sure that we pack a flashlight, and remember to always pack our essential items. Some safety tips for camping. Head on to camping. So we want to make sure we pack a first aid kit and emergency supplies. Before you leave, check the weather report. So when you arrive at the site, watch the skies for changes and carry a camp out weather radio if you can. In inclement weather, find shelter. Make sure we stay dry because wet clothes contribute to heat loss. Keep sleeping bags and important gear dry at all times, making sure everything stays dry in your tent or underneath the rain shelter. Making sure that we do pack a first aid kit, as your kit can provide you and your members, if you suffer anything from a cut, a bee sting, insect repellent, as bug spray, a snake bite, pain relievers, and sunscreen. And we'll continue to talk about that later in the presentation. I want to make sure that we continue to keep tabs on the weather, right? Inspect your site, inspect your campsite. Make sure the site is level. Make sure any areas that might pool rain. We're going to make sure that our tent is not set up at the bottom of the hill, as rain or mud can slide down and destroy our sites. We want to make sure that we build a fire in a safe spot. Open files and fuel burning appliances should be kept far away from our tents, right? Any tarps or canopies that we have. Many camping sites have specific rules of where campfires should be. We want to make sure that we follow those rules as appropriate. They're in the place for a reason. And be cautious when you use propane, as it can be explosive and can lead to further harm. And beware of wildlife. To ward off bears, making sure that you keep your campsite clean and not leaving any food, garbage, coolers, cooking equipment, or any utensils out in the open. So it's a great graphic, right? The top 3 things with camping safety. You want to keep tabs on the weather, choose your shelter and site accordingly, and be aware of any wildlife. So moving on to safety tips for bicycling and riding your bike. We want to make sure that we wear a properly fitted bicycle helmet, making sure that we protect our brain, and it can really save your life in the event of an accident. making sure that we adjust the bicycle to fit you. Check your equipment before riding and make sure that our tires are inflated properly, and check to make sure that the brake works on the bicycles. Making sure that we wear reflective materials and colors. Making sure that we are seen always at all times of day and night, wearing neon, fluorescent, or other bright reflective colors. Control your bicycle and avoid dangerous riding. And watch for and avoid road hazards. We have a great image on this slide showing you how to wear your helmet, making sure that the helmet is flat on your head, not tilted back or forward or at a difficult angle, making sure the helmet fits snug and does not obstruct your vision, making sure that the chin strap fits secure and is nice and secure along your chin, and the buckle stays fastened. We don't want the buckle to unloosen, and the helmet can fly off, making sure that we're staying safe. Some more safety tips for riding your bike. Some rules of the road. Some people may not realize, but there are bicycle rules when you're on the road. Making sure that we ride single file in the direction of traffic. Watching for car doors or unexpected cars that might pull off the road and open their doors. Be careful at intersections. Many cars may not see you riding your bike, making sure that you are being seen by them. We'll make sure that you use hand signals to alert others of your turns. The great graphic on the slide will show you using hand signals, turning left, right, or even slowing down. Making sure that we yield to traffic when appropriate. Making sure that we stay alert at all times during the bicycle ride. And watching for parked cars. And making sure that we practice riding your bike in car-free areas before we decide to venture out into roads, which are more heavily trafficked. We'll talk about some water safety now. Quote from Leonardo da Vinci that water is the driving force of all nature. And Lauren Isley, if there's magic in this planet, it is contained in water. So swimming safety for children. Swimming safety is very important, especially for children who are learning to swim or who have not really mastered the swimming. So water safety is important for children because drowning can occur in only a few seconds. Right? So we never leave a child alone unattended in water or near water. We want to make sure that we appoint a designated watcher to monitor children during social gatherings when we're at or near pools or open bodies of water. Make sure everyone learns how to swim at an early age, if we can. If you have a pool, we want to make sure that we secure it with appropriate fencing. You can refer to your town or county state guidelines for that. We want to avoid distractions when supervising children around water. If you are in charge of supervising the children in the water, making sure that you yourself are not distracted, making sure that you can keep an eye on the children always. And making sure that someone around the pool, making sure that you educate yourself, and making sure that you enroll in a child safety, first aid, and the CPR course. It's important to prepare yourself for any emergencies or any instances that might happen. So it's great to educate yourself about that. Children and adults should always wear properly fitted life jackets. At the ocean, only swim in front of a lifeguard on duty. Never dive into shallow water or an unknown body of water. Making sure that we drink plenty of water. And making sure that we educate and follow the rules of the body of water that we're at, whether it be a community pool, your own pool, the ocean, or a lake, making sure that we follow those rules. Canoeing and kayaking. Canoeing and kayaking can be a great outdoor sport that some new people like to try each summer, and some people who are veterans of the sport might continue to do, but it's important to keep some safety tips in mind. So depending on the current, some stretches of water can be slower or faster than others. As a strong wind can slow you down your rate of speed, especially trying to paddle against the wind. We want to make sure that we know our abilities of each paddler in the group, so the slowest can help set the pace, making sure that we work together as a team. Making sure that we are canoeing and kayaking, that we're scheduling breaks. We want to plan to stop for picnics or fishing, making sure that we plan accordingly. For more information, you can visit the National Park Service website at www.nps.gov. And depending on the level of water, paddling can be difficult. Let people know when and where you're canoeing and kayaking in case something happens. Cold water can lead to hypothermia or decreased uh, heat, right? Possibly getting too cold because the water might be cold if you do fall in. So it's important that we pack a spare set of clothing in case you do get wet. You want to change and get rid of those clothing so that you can become warm again and help regulate and help increase your body temperature. And some paddling safety tips. Some people think paddling might be easy, but paddling can also be very difficult depending on the situation you're in. Making sure that we're always wearing a life jacket. Make sure your life jacket fits properly, is snug underneath your arms. Making sure that you kneel and don't stand in the bottom of the canoe while in areas of rough water to try and gain your stability. Always follow the easiest route when you're canoeing if possible. Do not tie your canoes together. This can lead to capsizes and lead to injuries of people who are involved in the two canoes. And if you do capsize or roll over, make sure you stay upstream of your vessel. Don't try and get back into a vessel unless you have a more shallow area or a more safe area that you can do that. So this time I'm going to hand it off to Gwyneth and we're going to talk more about sun protection.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Right, so a little on sun protection. It's extremely important to protect yourself from the sun. Nearly 5 million people are treated for skin cancer every year. Skin cancer can be dangerous and potentially life-threatening. The sun's UV rays can damage your skin in as little as 15 minutes. Damage from UV rays can build up over time, which is why it's important to protect yourself from the sun starting at an early age. So sunscreen works by blocking and absorbing UV rays through a combination of physical and chemical particles. Physical particles such as zinc oxide and titanium dioxide are used to reflect UV radiation from the skin. Chemical ingredients in sunscreen react with the sun before it penetrates the skin. Use at least SPF 30. Aim for SPF 50 or higher if your skin is sensitive or you have a history of skin cancer in your family. So a little bit more on how sunscreen works. UVA rays have the longest wavelengths, followed by UVB and UVC rays, which have the shortest. Most of the rays you come in contact with will be UVA and UVB. So choose a sunscreen that is broad spectrum, which means that you will have protection against both UVA and UVB rays. And as you can see from the table, it's never possible to receive 100% sun protection with sunscreen. So don't let SPF 100 fool you into a false sense of security. Still follow all recommendations such as reapplying every 2 hours or whenever you come into contact with water. Okay, so staying sun safe outdoors involves seeking shade, especially during the midday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Be careful and aware of surfaces that can reflect the sun. Wear hats with a wide brim and sunglasses. Wear long sleeve t-shirts or pants or a long skirt when possible. Apply a thick layer of broad spectrum sunscreen. And for sunburns, use aloe vera and make sure to moisturize the skin. So some common sunscreen mistakes include not applying enough, not reapplying, thinking it's not necessary if you have darker or tan skin, forgetting to apply it in certain areas, and using expired sunscreen. Also thinking sunscreen is okay for babies would be a common mistake. So make sure to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours after swimming, sweating, or toweling off. And keep babies out of the sun until they're at least 6 months old. Their skin is sensitive to the sun and chemical sunscreens. It's better to protect them with hats and clothing instead. And this image describes the 1 ounce rule. So there's supposed to be 1 ounce for your whole body, and the fingertip rule is how many fingertip amounts you should apply to each region. So for example, 3 fingertip amounts for your face, 3 for your arms, and so on. So now we're going to transition to skin injuries. So what is a blister? A blister is a bubble on the skin containing fluid. Blisters are usually circular in shape with clear or bloody fluid inside. Blisters can be caused by bug bites, repetitive friction or rubbing, temperature extremes, and pinched blood vessels. In terms of describing a blister, these painful skin irritations can begin anywhere in the body where body parts rub together or rub against clothing. So in terms of how to prevent these blisters, to prevent them on your hands, it's important to wear gloves if you work outside with tools or play a certain sport. And to prevent them on your feet, it's important to break in your shoes, lace your shoes up so your ankles don't move around, change your socks often, and wear wool or synthetic socks that are more moisture wicking. And you can also cover trouble spots with moleskin, padding, tape, or any type of friction management patches. In terms of treating a blister, it's important to keep it covered, use padding to protect blisters in pressure areas, and avoid popping or draining a blister, and make sure to keep the area clean and covered. Once the blister has drained on its own, you should then wash the area with soap and water. So a little bit on poisonous plants. Most problems come from contact with the sap oil. The most encountered poisonous plants are poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac. And we have some pictures here to create a few visuals of those. So exposure to poisonous plants causes a rash. A rash is caused by the plant. It's an allergic reaction to the skin, to the oil from the skin found on all parts of the plant. That includes the leaves, stem, roots, and berries. So you get exposed by touching any part of the plant, touching pets, animals, clothing, or objects that have come in contact with the plants. It's important to look for exposure and itching that can appear 24 to 72 hours afterwards, and a rash usually starts as small red bumps and can later develop into blisters. So in terms of prevention with poisonous plants, it's important to clean the contaminated objects immediately after contact, wash your skin within 30 minutes after exposure, use soap and water to gently wash off the oils from your skin. Even washing after an hour can help reduce the rash. And treatments include over-the-counter corticosteroid cream or calamine lotion, and soaking in a cool bath containing oatmeal-based bath product. And here are some images to show what a rash would look like potentially. All right, so a little on bug protection. Bugs, including mosquitoes, ticks, and some flies, can spread diseases such as malaria, yellow fever, Zika, dengue, and Lyme, all of which have risk of severe and lasting effects. And many of these diseases spread by bugs cannot be prevented or treated with vaccines or medicine. This includes Zika, dengue, and Lyme. So it's important to reduce your risk of getting these diseases by taking preventative measures. So some of these preventative measures include using insect repellent to protect yourself. So it's important to use EPA-registered insect repellents with one of the following active ingredients: DEET, picaridin, IR3535, oil of lemon eucalyptus, paramethane diol, or 2-ondecanone. Reapply the repellent as directed, and if you're using a sunscreen, make sure you apply the sunscreen first and use the repellent second. Protecting the skin with high socks, long sleeves, and pants can also be effective at reducing bug bites. So if you're interested in purchasing some of these EPA-registered products, this can include companies such as Off, Sawyer, and Repel, and these are some images that you can look for when shopping. Okay, so now we're going to move a little bit more into ticks. So the diagram on the left shows the importance of wearing repellent, checking for ticks, and showering after being outdoors. And this diagram on the right shows the importance of walking in the middle of trails, wearing long sleeves, long pants with high socks tucked in if possible, wearing light colored clothing to really be able to identify any potential ticks on your body, and making sure to check for ticks immediately after outdoor activity, and then again 3 days after, just to double check. So in terms of removing a tick, it's important to know what to do and what not to do. So make sure to use fine tipped tweezers to grasp the tick as close to skin as you can. Pull upward with steady, even pressure, and don't twist or jerk the tick. After removing the tick, clean the bite area and wash your hands with rubbing alcohol or soap right away, and dispose of the tick by flushing it down the toilet. And if you would like to bring your tick to your healthcare provider to identify it, you can put it in rubbing alcohol or place it in a sealed bag or container. So in terms of lawn care to prevent some of these bugs, it's important to use synthetic or organic chemicals. Organic controls may not be as potent as synthetic chemicals and may need to be sprayed more often. It's really crucial to contact a professional who knows this area better. Make sure before spraying yourself to also address that with a professional. Okay, when it comes to pet protection during the summer, if you think it's hot outside, it's even hotter for your pet. So talk to your veterinarian about clipping or shaving dogs with long coats. Never leave your pet in the car alone. Make sure your pet has unlimited access to fresh water and shade when outside. Take walks during cooler hours of the day and try to stay off hot surfaces like asphalt because it could burn your pet's paws. And make sure to keep your animal free of parasites such as fleas, ticks, and heartworms by consulting your veterinarian about the best product for your pet. Okay, now we're going to move into pollen and allergies. So allergies can begin when your immune system reacts to something unusual. Your body helps to protect itself by causing this reaction, which can lead to many symptoms of sneezing, stuffy nose, and watery eyes. Many people have seasonal allergies, which does change based on the weather. And something very common is a pollen allergy. So pollen is a very fine powder produced by trees, flowers, and grasses. And pollen is one of the most common causes of allergies. So it's important to check the weather for high pollen counts and take extra steps. So stay indoors on dry, windy days. Remove clothing you've worn outside and shower. Don't hang laundry outside. Keep indoor air clean. Close doors and windows at night when pollen counts are high. And be sure to see your doctor if your symptoms continue to worsen. So this diagram on the right shows how pollen changes throughout the year, right? So during the spring, our main focus would be tree pollen. Summer has a larger focus on grass pollen. The fall, weed pollen, such as ragweed. And the winter, mold is a larger concern. So that includes dust mites, mold spores, and even pet dander. Okay, so now heat-related illnesses, heat stroke. It's really important to look out for high body temperature, so 103 degrees or higher. And you're also going to look for hot and red skin, a fast, strong pulse, nausea, dizziness, and confusion can also be a few symptoms. And this is a medical emergency, so it's really critical to call 911 or to seek medical help right away. Make sure to move the person to a cooler place, lower the person's temperature with cool cloths, and in this case, don't give the person anything to drink. On the other hand, with heat exhaustion, it's important to look for heavy sweating, but cold, clammy, and pale skin with a fast, weak pulse. Nausea, dizziness, and weakness can also be included, as well as muscle cramps. In this case, it's better to move the person to a cool place and apply cool cloths and sip water in this case. It's important to get medical help if your symptoms last longer than 1 hour. And a little bit more on heat-related illness, heat cramps. It's important to look out for heavy sweating during intense exercise, accompanied with muscle pain or spasms. So it's important to stop physical activity and move to a cool place and drink water, sports drink to hydrate yourself, and seek medical help again if your cramps last for longer than an hour. And in the case of heat rash, it's important to look for red clusters of small blisters, usually on the neck, chest, groin, or in the elbow creases. And it is pictured below, but you could keep in mind to look for. And in that case, it's important to stay in a dry, cool place and keep the rash dry by using powder. All right, so it's also critical to pack a first aid kit. This can be very important if someone suffers a cut, bee sting, or allergic reaction. You can purchase a first aid kit at a local retail store such as Walmart, CVS, or online sites such as Amazon, American Red Cross, or the American Heart Association. And some key things to keep in your first aid kit include adhesive bandages in many sizes, at least 25, some tape, 5 antibiotic ointment packets, and 5 antiseptic white packets, an emergency blanket, a cold and hot compress, 2 pairs of non-latex gloves, a few gauze pads, 2 triangular bandages, and tweezers.
All right, well, thank you for attending this webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to contact our program, and the email will be listed below in the description box. And also please fill out the post-webinar poll. Thank you.
Thank you.